Now let's pick back up with where we were. Okay, so what we'll discover here now is what is B times A. So I'm going to rewrite these matrices down here for us. Except this time I'm going to write B's matrix first. So that's matrix B, that's matrix A. And what we're going to discover here is that something's going on here with these matrix multiplications. Because here's our answer of A times B. All right, this is A times B here. What we're about to look at is what is B times A. All right, and remember this process works as the following. And I'm going to do a little faster on this one. We got the rows and the columns. Okay, so this would be -1 times 2 to get a -2, added with 3 times -3, which is a -9. Okay, so now I'm going to do that same first row by this column here on the outside, which would be -1 times 1 to get a -1, and -1 times the 0 to get a 0. Now we are on to here, second row, first column. So those blue guys, we've got a 0 times the 2 to get a 0, plus 4 times the -3 to get a -12. And then last but not least, we've got this bottom row, so the 0 and the 4, by this outside column, the 1 and the 0. And we get 0 times 1 to get a 0, and 4 times 0 to get another 0. And then when we consolidate these here, we'll get -11, -1, -12, and 0. So hopefully what you can see here is that these are not the same at all, nor are they any type of same numbers but switched around or anything like that. So our takeaway here about matrix multiplication is that order matters. All right, to where matrix A times matrix B is not the same as matrix B times matrix A. And if I made any multiplication mistakes on that, which, that's always possible, we can cover that kind of after the video concludes. It'll just be a computational mistake, which happens sometimes when I'm kind of talking and writing at the same time. All right, so this is some really important stuff about the matrices. You can only multiply the matrices if the number of, so this part, the fill in the blanks isn't really going to be that helpful, but the next part will be. If the number of columns of A is equal to the number of rows in B. That's not going to be the part that's really going to help you. It's more so going to be this. Look at the dimensions. Remember, dimensions go rows by columns. So this is a 3 by 2 matrix. Okay, so I'm going to write out my 3 by 2. And then this matrix are 3 by 2. This matrix here is 2 rows and 4 columns. This is what tells us that you can multiply matrices. And that's what it's saying up here. Columns of the first matrix multiplied by rows in the second, or it has to match up with, rather. That's what tells us our matrices can be multiplied. And that just links up the fact that when I do this times that they match, or this times that they match. And then another neat thing about this is that the dimensions of our answer matrix will be these outside terms. So the dimensions of our answer will be a 3 by 4 matrix. This part here will be look at the dimensions. We've got a 2 by 2 matrix, and then this one is a 3 by 2. These don't match. I cannot multiply these matrices together. And if you tried to, here's what would happen. You got this row. When you go to multiply by this column, they don't match. There's a value unaccounted for there. And that's why this concept works. So there would be no answer matrix here. This one's not possible. So key components. If the insides match, they can multiply, and they will multiply. The outside dimensions tell you the result of your final answer. All right, and we'll get a lot more practice on multiplying these by hand too, but we'll see it in the calculator as well in terms of being able to double check our work. And you will have to know how to do some of these by hand. There'll be some that are required by hand on a non-calculator portion, but we're going to check them with the calculator here too, and try some of these, because this one would be quite large to do by hand. We could do it, but it would take us a while. Alright, so we've got the buttons here for us to go through and type in these matrices. We're going to do these on the calculator. And we'll continue to explore these on doing them by hand as well. But it's nice to be able to have this calculator process down so we can double check our answers.